who performs wonders even today. I am not speaking about him. I am speaking about a man who was much lower than him. I am speaking about Maulana Abdul Aleem Siddique, who came here. I was with Maulana Abdul Aleem Siddique in his world tour in 1949-1950. And there are thousands of witnesses. It can be verified any time by anyone. It is not a false story. We arrived in the Philippines. Hazrat Maulana Abdul Aleem Siddique Rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi wa qaddasallahu ta'ala sirrul aziz. We arrived in the Philippines. We were touring the Philippines when we arrived in the island of, in the city of Kuta Baru. Kuta Baru is the name of a province as well as the name of its capital. Kuta Baru has a population of about 30% Muslims and about 60% Christians and about 10% pagans. Now, the day when we arrived, this country of the Philippines, I may tell you, is a country where we have the rainfall all through the year. Heavy rainfall. So, when we arrived at Kuta Baru in the morning, it was announced there that Maulana Abdul Aleem Siddique Rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi will deliver a public address at the savannah or the open park in the evening after Salatul Maghrib. Alright. At about 2 o'clock, a very furious type of army of black clouds, thick black clouds started to gather over Kuta Baru, with rumbling and thundering and threatening. At the Asr time, I and Maulana Abdul Aleem Siddique met at the tea table because it was his habit to take some rest between Zohar and Asr. I was seeing this, the announcement had been made, and I was wondering as to how Maulana would be able to deliver the speech and how the function would be held. So I spoke in my anxiety at the tea table to Maulana, and there were many other people sitting there. I said, "Sir, have you noticed these thick clouds, black clouds, and I think probably we are going to have a very heavy stormy rain." Maulana looked at me. He smiled. He said, "Why do you care, my son? We are not here on our mission. Our mission is that of God Almighty. He controls us and He controls this rain. Why are you anxious?" And he started sipping his tea. When we had prayed Maghrib in the hotel where we were staying, a huge number of human beings had already come in order to occupy seats. There was a huge crowd, almost probably more than 30,000 or even more. A vast crowd. When we had offered the Salatul Maghrib, that threat from the skies above increased. The governor of Kuta Baru was to take the chair, and the Chief Justice of Kuta Baru and other ministers of that province, they were also there, most of them Christians. Maulana Abdul Aleem Siddique Rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi stood up after the introduction. I was sitting by his side. He was standing at the mic, and there was another mic where the interpreter was standing, because in order to translate into the local Filipino dialect. Maulana read the Khutbah Masnoona, which I read also in Arabic before delivering the lecture. And then he has just started, "My dear brothers," or something, "your ladies and gentlemen," or something. And he had spoken hardly two sentences when big drops of rain started coming. Tap, tap, tap. And there was that thundering and that rumbling overhead. The people of that place knew that it was going to be a big storm. They knew that, so they commenced getting up. Allahu Akbar. I was sitting by Maulana Sahib on a chair and he was standing. Do you know what he said? Brothers, don't leave this place. This rain is going to stop immediately. And it will not rain until I have finished my lecture. Then after I have finished my lecture, you will get 10 minutes in order to go back to your homes. So do not come to the dais to shake hands with me. Remember this. And the rain stopped. There are thousands of persons alive up to this day in Kuta Baru who were eyewitnesses to this. And my heart started trembling in a sort of anxiety. What has he said? I mean, it is a challenge. How can he say that the rain is going to stop immediately and it will not come until I have finished my lecture and you have 10 minutes at your disposal after that to go back to your home? So after he had said this, then he again started. I was by his side just trying to notice as to whether there was even the slightest touch of anxiety, because when there is anxiety within then a person who is speaking, I would say its slight shade does come. Allahu Akbar. That evening he delivered the longest speech of his life, which I have heard. The thunder was there above, all the time threatening that I am coming. And Maulana Abdul Aleem Siddique was speaking with absolute calmness and with absolutely no concern. And that was also one of the most beautiful speeches of his on Islam which I have heard. When he spoke for 1.5 hours, his habit was in those countries not to speak for more than 1 hour. But that night he spoke 1.5 hours, and after he had finished the speech and the chairman got up for the vote of thanks, proposed the vote of thanks and said the meeting is now adjourned, the people had forgotten everything, that they were fleeing from there like that, you see. So they started crowding on the dais. Then Maulana Abdul Aleem Siddique Rahmatullahi ta'ala went to the microphone. He said, my brothers, you have forgotten that the rain had come and I told you this. You don't remember now. I tell you that it is only 10 minutes. Would you please leave for your homes, and I am leaving for my hotel. And exactly after 10 minutes the rain came in such a stormy manner that in the morning water was standing at the roads 7 feet. And canoes were plying on those roads. I have seen many things. Many things have been recorded. I may say this one incident. And do you know how many Christians became Muslim next day? They did not need any arguments now for Islam. I have taken up this incident because you know him, he came here. And you know him only as an alim. You don't know about his spiritual worth. I and he were to travel from New York to Edmonton in West Canada. The seats were booked. Intimation had been sent to Edmonton that we are coming by such and such flight. We had to take the flight in the morning from New York. The flight went from there at 7 o'clock. In the night, when I and he in the hotel, we performed namaz in congregation. There were some other people also there. He led the prayers. After this Isha prayers, he, after his salam in Fard, when he had finished with the salams, he turned towards me. He said, Fazlur Rahman, would you telephone to the air company that we are not going by the morning flight tomorrow? I said, sir, why? All arrangements have been made there, and you have got to give a speech there tomorrow evening. He said, don't ask me this. Say it to the air company. So I said, all right, sir, then for what other date should I fix it up? He said, I'll tell you about it tomorrow. All right, I had to do as I was ordered. In the morning, this flight, this aircraft went to the sky at the appointed time, proceeded about 8 miles from New York and crashed, every passenger dying. And then he called and he said, now you say to the air company that we are going by tomorrow's flight in the morning. I will say, if a person becomes the slave of some great man here, whether he is great in wealth or is great in power or great in anything, then if he is a poor man and he becomes the slave or he becomes such an intimate friend all the time flattering this wealthy man, he will not, this wealthy man, if he has even an iota of sharafat in him, then this wealthy man would not like this man to remain a pauper. What do you think about God? This is the Khalifatullah. And this Khalifatullah, about him, the Holy Prophet ﷺ has said, he says, among my ummah, there will be persons with shabby clothes on their bodies, with dust on their faces. But he says that if they raise their hands, if they would raise their hands before God, wallahi, those hands will never come back empty. This is the Walliullah. This is what Tasawwuf stands for. This name, Tasawwuf, is given to that which is called in the Hadith Al-Ihsan, and whose methodology has been named in the Quran as Tazkiyah, purification. This is the beautification of one's Islam. This is Tasawwuf, about which in the Hadith we are told, when Jibreel alayhi salam asked the Holy Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, Mal ihsan, he answered, فَعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ كَأَنَّكَ تَرَاهُ فَإِن لَمْ تَكُنْ تَرَاهُ فَإِنَّهُ يَرَاكَ. Serve thy Lord with this state of consciousness. To be capable of serving the Lord with this state of consciousness, that thou art seeing Him. This is Al-Ihsan. And the lower stage of this Al-Ihsan is فَإِن لَمْ تَكُنْ تَرَاهُ. So long as it is not possible for thee to have the vision of God, then thou shouldst have at least this consciousness in a very positive manner, that thou art serving Him and He is seeing thee. This is the whole story of Tasawwuf. I have numerous other dimensions in this problem on which I should have spoken, but I have taken too much of your time, my dear friends. And I have spoken with all my heart and with all my sincerity and with all my responsibility. I hope I have made this concept of Tasawwuf clear to you. But before I leave, I would again like to speak a few more words. Why in Islam it was not called Al-Ihsan and it came to be known by the word Tasawwuf.